Hello, everyone, and welcome in to the Petrol Heads podcast. I'm your host, Jason Reynolds, and here is my host, Dave Diekman.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good, you?
Yeah, pretty good, hanging in there. How was your weekend?
It's good. Did a little summer cleanup before, getting ready for the winter. So just putting stuff away, and yeah, it was good. Productive.
Yeah, we pretty much cleaned all day Saturday. I went and played a little pickleball Saturday morning, and then came home and cleaned and had a little bit of a quiet day yesterday. So just watching some sports, watching the race. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was, I had to recover from that day just by itself.
It is nice waking up and having a race on first thing.
I had 2 races and football all day. Just by about 7 o'clock, I was like, yeah, I'm done. About sportsed out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're joining us after a very exciting, controversial, and just spicy Azerbaijan Grand Prix.
We should rename it the 2024 Flexi Wing Grand Prix from Azerbaijan.
Yeah, I saw that. People making a big deal. Oh, McLaren are cheating. Maybe they're just seeing what they can do within the rules.
Yeah.
If it's an illegal part, the FIA will take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so we're here today. We're gonna talk about some news, going on, and then we'll review the race, give our thoughts on all the action, and then review our predictions that we made in the preview episode. So, really, the only news that has come out is the confirmation that Newey was going to Aston Martin. And so, what are your thoughts on that?
I think this is his last project before he rides off into the sunset.
Idiot. No, I mean, I get it. I think I really was just like, I was like, I don't understand how you pass up the opportunity to Ferrari, but after watching their launch and how things went, I think he was getting a lot more than what Ferrari was going to offer.
Yeah.
I don't think Ferrari would give him stake in the team for one.
No.
And, it was, the salary probably wasn't as much. And then, just the fact that he'd had to move to Italy. I mean, I don't know if he would have had to. Probably.
Maybe if his timing was early 2000s, they'd be like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
But now in the latter part of his career, they're probably like, not worth it.
Yeah. But I'm not. I take the Lewis approach. He's just one guy. Yeah. He's just, and at the end of the day, I don't think that he's not. I mean, the British media will give you the idea that he's just immortal and the greatest thing that walked the earth. But I just don't. He's good. They made an interesting point though, is that when it's like when the regulations, the cars are more aerodynamic based, that's when he dominated. But then when they're more engine based, he struggled. So you had the Red Bull years with Sebastian, that was more of an aerodynamic time.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they switched to the engine, that was on Mercedes. They had the best engine and
the hybrid era.
Yeah, and they dominated. And then this new regulation's a bit more aero. And then the 2026 regulations is supposed to be more engine. Again, kind of flipping back. So I'll be curious. I'm just really surprised that they allowed him to start competing so soon. Red Bull probably could have held him out. They could have stuck it to him and made him hold out for a little while. So
it's probably their thank you for all your years of service.
Yeah,
Go
probably.
Have fun,
It's interesting too, the different dynamics that have come out, right? So Christian Horner is is like he's kind of voiced that, like the announcement's a little premature and he still has, a car to finish.
Mm-hmm.
But when they talk to him, he says he hasn't touched that car since Japan, which is almost right when they started having trouble. And it's only been downhill since then.
Yeah.
But he claims that they don't, like, he's basically been cut out. So it's interesting. I don't.
Maybe Christian's trying to save face a little bit.
But, I mean, he always does. He fluffs up his drivers and makes excuses for him all the time, and so he's a jackass as well. My opinion. But anyways, we'll see what happens though. So I still you got to get the drivers in there, and I think really old Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll aren't going to be the guys to do it.
Maybe Max is watching from afar and saying,
maybe
let's get the band back together at Aston Martin.
Could be. It's possible. We'll see. That will be wild.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's get into the race review. So we'll start off with a traditional race rank. I gave it a 9 out of 10. I did. I thought the only thing that kept me from giving it a 10 out of 10 was the little bit there, like first 10 laps. It was kind of like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Looks like we're in for a snooze fest, but it did not disappoint. And probably would have went with an 8, but then the end.
Yeah.
that was just like, oh, it was juicy. It was so awesome.
Yeah, I gave it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
On there.
That's what I figured. But yeah, so I mean, it was a great race. It had overtaking, close battles, wrecks, you name it. Guy coming up through the field. I mean, the race had everything. That was good. I'll go here through the results. So P1, we have Oscar Piastri, followed by Charles Leclerc and George Russell. That was your podium. Then we had Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, Fernando Alonso, Alexander Albon, Franco Colapinto, Lewis Hamilton, and Ollie Behrman wrapping up the top 10. And then we had Nico Hulkenberg, Gasly, Daniel Ricciardo, Zhou Guanyu, Esteban Ocon, Valtteri Bottas, and then the final 4, Sergio Perez, Carlos Sainz, Lance Stroll, and Yuki Tsunoda did not finish. So, what are your thoughts?
Quite the mix-up at the end there. I think after the collision, that was a late virtual safety car, But I think that really only shook up, Lewis and Oliver round out the top 10. But Nico's the biggest loser of that because he slowed down, and then right when they got past the wreck, it was green light to going into 3, and he was just asleep at the wheel, and Lewis took him, and Oliver was right there.
Yeah, I saw that,
and I did like Oliver just stuck his elbows out and said, "Thank you very much."
Yeah, it was well, to kind of start towards the beginning, I wanted to touch on. So this, I'm going to have a couple of little pet peeves today, but my first one is with Pirelli. Right, so I'm not on this side where I think that Formula One should have this bulletproof tire. Like, I think the best races are high degradation races where undercuts work, or a guy can, he can, they're on a one stop and then they're getting towards the end and Lewis is going to pit grab softs and try to chase him down because he wasn't going to catch him on hard. So, finishing out the stint. The big problem I have is because I don't think they know what's going on. Is these dumb operating temperatures that these tires have? They're like 2 degrees. You have cars that go through the weekend. Say it's all hot. It's hot. It's a hot weekend. Practice was hot. Qualifying is hot, and then they get to the race and say, "Oh well, it's a cloudy day. It's cooled down," and the tire acts completely different. And I'm not saying that that's somewhat normal, but you're having that much of a variation in the tire, like just having that just a tiny window and that tire working you're starting to introduce a variable that's out of the control of the teams. So it's too much, right? Like it was like with that race, the Ferraris at the beginning were way better on the mediums. They were the fat, and I think probably Oscar overcooked his a little bit, but then they switched to hards and all of a sudden McLaren's the fastest. They're doing the best on hards. And then you've got Mercedes was looking good all weekend, and they come into the race and they can't get the tires in an operating window, qualifying in the race, and they're miles off the pace. I just don't like that element being that drastic. Like I just think that I don't even think Pirelli have an answer. I think it's just too much. It's too much of a discrepancy. Like it just shouldn't. I don't think it should be that kind of a factor. Tire temps shouldn't be, creating like half a second lap variances.
So there's talks of a Pirelli conspiracy going on. So, they'll show up, and to further expand on what you touched on, the teams show up, run through their practice programs Friday, Saturday into qualifying, and they can almost build an entire weekend around those tires like that. They know the operating temperature, how fast, how many laps you've got at peak grip, and then how it's going to slowly decline after each forthcoming lap. What they're saying is Pirelli is going in Sunday morning and saying, kind of like how you touched on with the clouds, all right, here's your new technical delicate on these tires. That's it. And teams are like, well, what the hell? So now they've lost all their models that they built, their knowledge around the tire being a little bit more predictable. Now they have all new data, and it's almost acting like a completely new tire. And they say that is for the spice of the show.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because normally think about it, from your hard, medium, and softs, you have the tire delta is like what, a second, usually, just say on average.
Depending on the track, but yeah.
And then they come in with new rules on Sunday morning saying, hey, change this, pressures.
But, so like expand on that just a little bit. So like I think, so are you saying like that Pirelli come out and say like, oh, you need to have them in this temperature versus, because I think with like pressures are, that's more of an FIA regulation where they have a set range that they can be in.
Yeah. But I think if it's like, with Pirelli, they'll come in and say, okay, like we have cooler temperatures, let's bring the tire pressures down or up or a little bit like this, like that. It could be the temperature in the tire blankets. And it could also be, maybe they could come in and say safety concerns as far as how much camber you have in the tires.
Right.
So teams come in, say, with -5. And they're saying, hey, now you have to do -2 max, for safety.
Right.
Put it under that umbrella. But what does it do? All your work throws that out the window. And now you've got more variables for the race for the good of the show.
I guess the only way to look into the facts of that would be finding out exactly what kind of information Pirelli can control to the teams, because it's like, I don't know. I'd find it weird that they've got a whole weekend's worth of tire data during FP1, 2, and 3, and then they have to throw all that out for the qualifying in the race. I don't know. It's very strange. I just don't. I hate that it's that much of a factor.
They could have all the data and they could be looking at it and saying, okay, let's just say the top 3 teams, they're affected by this much temperature variance.
Yeah.
Whereas the rest of the teams have a much wider window. So let's get it into that bigger window, and then it effectively kills your top teams running right there, and it evens up the field a little bit.
Yeah, because it's also strange how you're at a higher degradation. Like, you can be like, so Baku is not a super high degradation track. Belgium, it is. Mm-hmm. It's a higher deg track. But they were like, Russell made those hards last that long, right? But then you saw Leclerc. I mean, he fell off. It was the cliff that they kept talking about weeks and weeks, and you never saw it. And at a track that's not supposed to be that high of degradation. And yeah, like, I mean, his pace vaporized. I mean, he ended up finishing, I didn't realize it, but 11 seconds basically behind Oscar.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, he never got out of his DRS basically maybe one time after Oscar passed him. Like that. I mean, he is just, his pace vanished.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't know. It's very strange that I don't know.
Well,
I don't think Pirelli. If Pirelli does have a conspiracy kind of thing going on, or they don't know what they're doing. Like they can't figure it out.
And the other, to add on to that, clean air is king. Once you're in dirty air, that's gonna, you're sliding more, you're chasing, or you're putting a pressure on more, so you're driving harder. You're chewing your tires. I mean, they were, yeah. I don't know. It's just, it was wild to see that much. I don't know. And that doesn't bother me. The cliff part, that doesn't bother me as much as just, if you can't get the tire in this perfect range, the car just doesn't work. Mm-hmm.
I mean, Mercedes was miles off the pace, but they had a car in every single practice top 3. How does that happen, right? And that's what they said.
George was complaining too.
Oh, well, that's what Lewis and George, like Lewis, he asked, he's like, what's the gap to Leclerc during qualifying? And they tell him, and he's like, guys, tires, like, we got to get these tires in temp, and they just couldn't do it. And obviously all the teams are complaining about it.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't want to stick on that so long. We'll see what happens with it. I think the obvious thing here is it was just an unbelievable race by Oscar. I mean, him and Leclerc really, the whole top, just both of those guys just, battling it out. And, you notice how the fight for the lead is a lot, it's nice and clean. We don't have a certain someone up there driving like a jackass, like all those battles were everything. Everybody was showing respect. It was all clean. It was hard racing, but yeah. And that's what we want.
But if Oscar did not hold that turn, everybody'd be like, what an asshole. Look at this guy.
I don't know, because I think if he say he didn't make the corner, I think
he's going into the wall,
right?
Yeah.
And I think he would have come out and been like, "My bad."
Yeah,
because he would have.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have been like, "Oh, if Leclerc had left me more room with the wall," and make excuses for it, right? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. That's it. It's just it was a knucklehead move by Leclerc to leave the inside wide open like that.
Oh, he definitely should have defended harder, but
yeah, because I mean that because what you saw the rest of the race is Oscar knew what Leclerc should have known. The only way you're making a pass is on the inside. You're not gonna because if you try to go around the outside, they're just gonna push you, and it's either you lift or you're going to the wall.
But he did come from a long way back, so his probably last check before braking was probably like, "Oh, yeah, he's no way,"
Like, No, I don't. Yeah, I mean, he was. Man, I don't know. Something about Australians, man. They've got that late braking. It was a Daniel Ricciardo move there.
Yeah.
Mark Webber had said it was the best drive he had seen him pull off Oscar.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So that was super. I mean,
yeah, because as soon as he passed, the rest of the race was all defensive everywhere.
I got a hard hitting question. Is he better than Norris?
Looking like it. But I think, to me, it's the mentality that gives him the edge.
Yeah.
He seems like a more of a, oh, you want to race? Oh, we'll race, whereas Lando's like, oh yeah, we'll race, but he's going to be a little more forgiving than I'd say Oscar,
Yeah, I feel like Lando on one hand is a bit too nice, and then also a little too emotional. I mean, if you can use that, if you're an emotional person and you can use that as fuel, kind of like a Tom Brady-esque kind of thing, it's great, but most guys can't do that. That's pretty hard. And I think that especially, in something that's a sport that's so technical like that, you've got to keep your head.
Yeah.
And when you start driving angry, you start overdriving the car, or if you like when you're frustrated, it just typically is never going to equate to pace.
Well, it's another driver tactic too. His teammates going to know that all his fellow drivers are going to, or rival drivers are going to know that. So they're going to be like, let's upset him a little bit. And then it, that just unravels him and there goes his race. So where they know Oscar, he's pretty much cool as a cucumber and
completely.
It's not going to, he's not going to get rattled easy.
He's a bit dry. I'd like to see a little bit more out of him, dry. But I think you finally got to a little bit. That win was more of a, I got this fair and square, straight up. I took this win and I earned it, versus his last one. But I think definitely mentality wise, he's better. Yeah. He's more ready. Lando, I think Lando is still better as far as pure racecraft versus Oscar right now is the better wheel-to-wheel racer. Like that, I felt like that was it's almost like that's Daniel, right? Daniel was never a really good qualifier. He didn't light the world up qualifying, and he wasn't just gonna. You didn't see him. He'd get out front and he was gone, right? Like went in by 30 seconds. You don't really see that. I think he's just. But when it came to wheel, I mean, he was clean. He was just. I mean, Daniel, I think in peak Daniel may have been the best wheel to wheel, guy on the driver on the grid at the time. So good, but I think I wish Lando could have been in this.
I know.
Because because again, you can't take anything away from him. I mean, he did an unbelievable race to get back up and recover to where he was. I mean, because you
still finish ahead of Max too.
Yeah, and because you saw like Lewis, they couldn't do that. The pace was just not in that car.
Yeah,
and it was so you can't take anything from Lando, and in respect to Lando too was even he didn't let. I really liked how he didn't let any of his rightful frustrations from the weekend like get in the way. When they asked him, they were like, "Hey, could you mind holding up, Perez and helping out Oscar?" And he's like, "Yeah, how long?" And he did a good job with it. And I so respect to Lando for that, but man,
it's pretty rich hearing Perez on the radio going, "Oh, did you see him? He's blocking. He's blocking."
Yeah, I was like, you of all people,
you're the best blocker out there,
right?
Come on.
Like you of all people are gonna bitch about that. Like, get out of here. No, yeah, we'll get on to him in a minute, but so do you think? Do you think the title race is still on?
For constructor?
No, drivers.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be he ain't helping. It's not being, Lando's not helping himself with I can't exactly blame him for that qualifying. It shouldn't have been a yellow flag.
Man, yeah. When you go back and watch the replay, it's just he come around that turn. There was the slow car right there. Saw the yellow, and then he let off. And as soon as he did, it went green again, and it was like
I'd have done what I'd have kept going, and let me explain it later. Right? I don't think he'd have got penalized because they just had it was like two drivers in free practice. They called up, like they noted that they didn't slow down under yellows. And they're like, slap on the wrist, like, "Hey, don't do that again." He should have just stuck with it.
Yeah, I mean, because all it was a slow moving Alpine, wasn't it?
Ocon, yeah, because he had a puncture,
but he was well off the line.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, so. He slowed. Yeah. He slowed to let Lando through.
Yeah, so
and so like I was just like,
that was a little bullshit.
Followed the rules, but I'd have just kept my foot in it. Hope for the best.
Maybe that's where Oscar would have been like, "Fuck that light, we're going."
What is it? What does it say? What is that saying? Ask for permission later.
No, ask for forgiveness later.
Yeah. There you go. Ask for forgiveness later. That's what I'd have done. I mean, but especially in that situation where like, oh, I've got to get this lap in because, and the team probably should have been giving him that feedback, like, "Hey, you got to get this lap because you're about to be eliminated." So I don't know.
Yeah, and they even warned him saying, "Hey, like yellow. What turn was it? It was yellow 16 or 17. Nothing from them. So it was a surprise to them as well. To everybody on the wall. So
yeah. Well, I don't know. Hopefully, hopefully stuff like that quits happening. Like we don't see a lot of that during the rest of the year because I just don't want.
Yeah,
I don't want to be like the title being decided on that because man, is it looking more and more like we're winding up that those 7 points are gonna come into play.
Think of the points. Just say if Lando finished third and Carlos and Sergio didn't crash, they most likely would be behind Oscar, Charles, and Lando, which pushes Max even further, say 7th, 8th. So that would have been a nice chunk of points he would have taken out of that lead. But
Yeah.
We'll never know.
No, it's tough. But they've taken the lead in the constructors. So that I think it's going to be a battle between them and Ferrari. For the I think Red Bull could be looking at finishing third. Very possible.
Yeah, because Ferrari's there at 425, Red Bull's at 456, and McLaren's at 476.
Yeah.
It didn't help Ferrari's boost with Carlos getting taken out.
Well, yeah, so that was going to be my next. That was the next point.
Yeah.
The elephant in the room.
Let's touch on that.
So I'm going to give my opinion because I was scouring Twitter. Karun came on and did his analysis and was like, "It's a racing incident, but if I had more." Like if I had to put more of the blame on one driver, it'd be Sainz. And I was seeing this all over Twitter, like a lot too. And I'm like, first of all, me, I'm not a Sainz defender. I mean, I'm never going to make excuses for him. But in what world is that his fault?
I don't know.
Julian Palmer he said it best. And it was, I mean, I still say, like, I'm not coming out and saying I think Perez deserved a penalty. I think it was because it was a racing incident. It was just it was such the smallest of touches. But you're telling me, could it be Carlos's fault? Carlos has every right to go wherever he wants on that straight. Mm-hmm. He's in front. You see it all the time. Drivers push other drivers down into, off the racing line. It's like, Perez, it's on you to back out. Yeah. This is not, and you
have to expect him to come over.
You had 2 car links next to you. Mm-hmm. What? And no, you just held your ground.
Carlos is following the tow too, because if you notice, Charles drifted over to the left too. So
he has every right to do. Mm-hmm. I don't know I just could not believe that anyone would say that was Sainz's fault.
Yeah, because FIA said it was 50-50. Yeah, racing incident. They didn't put it on one or the other.
Fine. I'm fine with that, right? Like, I still, I just don't. I don't understand how that's. You've got to look at Perez. Mm-hmm. I mean, Sainz barely even moved. He was basically just drifting. You've got to move.
The normal line coming out of 2.
Right. Yeah. Like, you can't. I don't understand how is it any different than, if they went through a corner like that, and Sainz, there was plenty of space. Perez could have went anywhere down there, but stays on basically half on the line and touches Sainz and spins him in the corner. Well, we're looking at that differently. You're going to say, oh, that was Perez's fault. So it's the same thing. He's going on it's not even a braking zone. I could understand if it was a braking zone. You could say it's a little naughty. But it wasn't even a braking zone. They were on corner exit. Like, move.
Watching it live, it was hard to tell just from the angles that we had initially. So it was, for me, it was 50-50. But then when I went back and watched the tapes and then now you're concentrating now on the driver's hands, if they're drifting or anything. And it just looked like Sergio froze. As soon as he was exit 2, he was just like,
yeah.
And, Carlos is ahead of him. So, yeah, just starting to drift over natural line. And Sergio is just, he's got blinders on.
Right. Because, I mean, you can, and when you look at Sainz on board, it's not even like he's basically, the wheel's basically straight. It's not like he abruptly turned into him or it was some kind of erratic movement.
And the crazy thing is, yeah, Sergio could have backed out, but he also had, at that time, 3 laps to make another attack, and he was coming up on the straight too.
Yeah, I mean, he was still. They were coming down for the second DRS zone.
Yeah, if he gets you,
yeah,
get back in line and get him on the next straight.
I think he knew once he got him because the Red Bull was too slow in a straight line, even with DRS. But and one other excuse I'll give them is they did have the sun right in their face by that time.
Yeah,
so I could see where that could affect you, but you've got to have more awareness and kind of just being like, you've had a fantastic race and there is a possible chance that you're going to lose a podium here. But, again, you still had the run down to the next corner. You're enough beside of him where he has to leave you space. I don't know if he would by the time they got to the end, but even live to fight another day.
Yeah, even third or fourth, it way better than the past 10 races you've had. It's that's the boost that he needed, especially for a doubleheader. But yeah, kicking the nuts.
That's rough. That was juicy for us though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's crazy to even think for a second that that's Sainz's fault.
No. Yeah, I'm 100% Perez.
And again, I'm not a Sainz truther. I'm not his biggest fan. I think sometimes he pushes that limit and wants to try to be like, what did I do?
Yeah.
But this time,
I don't think
you didn't do anything.
I don't think it was malicious at all from Perez. It was just
asleep.
Yeah,
I guess. I mean, just not
froze.
Just maybe, just kind of. I don't know. It's tough because, like I said, he was having a hell of a race. He was really a really nice recovery drive by him. But on to the rest of the field. The rookies, both rookies scoring points. I thought Colapinto was, Behrman, like you could say it was a solid drive by Behrman. But Colapinto was,
even before the wreck, he was still in the points.
Yeah. Well, he out qualified Albon.
Yeah.
That
first time
in your second race,
2 years.
Yeah.
I don't think Logan
never out qualified him. Yeah. And you did in your second race at Baku, which is, a difficult track.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be raising some eyebrows on some F1 teams, especially to he had a little mistake there. Cause when he bent it, I was like, they brought this guy in to not do, cause Logan was doing this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, then to turn around and stick it in the points. I think he could have potentially got Albon.
Both in Q3 too. That was impressive.
Yeah. He could have potentially got Albon too if they'd had a few more laps. I think he was closing in on him.
Yeah, he was 2 seconds behind him.
Yeah, just right there. So,
but you got to think some of these times are a little skewed just because of the virtual safety car.
Yeah, a little. It'll be a touch.
But still, not minutes or laps. Behind him.
Well, again, after 2 races, he's got more points, I believe, than Logan Sargent ever scored. I think, and Latifi as well. I don't think Latifi ever scored any points. I don't know. I have to look. I have to fact check that. But yeah.
Yeah, 4 points. Yeah. Probably Latifi and Logan combined.
Yeah. So it was really good. He's really impressive. Because it was that was another thing, because it's like you think, I think naturally you think Albon is good, which I do. I think Albon is good, but your best comparison is your teammate, and he's never had anyone, right? So you're kind of like, well, is he really is it him that's putting that car where it doesn't deserve to be, or is it just his teammates are that bad? And I think you're seeing a little glimpse here that maybe that car is a little better than you think, and now he's got a competitive teammate.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, different tracks suit different drivers. This could be one of his worst, personally.
Could be.
And,
we'll see. I mean, See how the year finishes.
Yeah.
I think it's too. A lot of it is just he doesn't have that pressure, right? He knows.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not going to be in this seat next year, so
Yeah.
you know. But
well, it's also his interview for other teams as well.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, he'll
because look at Bierman.
If he finishes solid like this the rest of the year, there's no way that somebody doesn't pull him in for at least 2026.
I mean, look at Bierman. Yeah, he had his chance in Saudi and got the Haas drive next year, or for the next year. So
yeah, a lot of some people talk about maybe that getting Sauber's attention, but I don't think. I think Williams is going to look at that and be like, "You ain't going nowhere," because I could very well see, signs only being like a 1 year. I mean, I think it signed a multiple year deal, but they usually always have a way out. If there's a seat with a top team that opens up after 25,
he's kicking rocks. He's gone. It'll be a good test for Albon. To see, because now he's got a consistent, top tier driver. So see how we stack up.
I thought it was really cool. Lewis went and congratulated both of them. Like he giving them shout outs and went and greeted, congratulated them in person.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really cool. Again, that's part of why I like him so much, is to see him, even though those guys are his competitors, and he raced with Ollie. He had they were, a little feisty there.
Oh yeah,
point.
They were.
Yeah. So, and he went and congratulated Behrman, and it was I don't want to say it's the exact quote, but he said in his interview, he's like, he's like, this day can't get any better. Like I get up into the points and I got to race wheel to wheel with a 7-time world champion. And then he comes up and shakes my hand after the race.
Yeah.
He's like, that's pretty cool. So yeah, I thought it was, that was awesome
for sure.
I feel bad for kind of both Mercedes drivers. I was really shocked that he had that pit lane start. I wasn't that kind of
with the engine change. Yeah.
And I guess they thought that they had better pace than that, and it just didn't translate.
They said that he should be good for the rest of the season. No more engine changes. So
no, I shouldn't have to. So I mean, that's good. That's a good thing. Yeah. That could really come into play. But I mean, he ended up 2 points out of it. He wouldn't have been in the points if it hadn't been for the wreck. But hey, opportunistic. George Russell just twice this year. So he hasn't had a podium since that race win. That big, because he got disqualified in Belgium. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he hasn't had one since that race win. So his last 2 podiums he inherited.
Yeah,
but you got to be there.
Yeah, you definitely have to be there.
Both Alpine and RB were both trash.
Yeah, Alpine.
RB especially.
Nowhere. Yeah.
They might lose the position in the points to Haas. I think it's only a few points separating them now.
Yeah. I'll tell you here, just 1 second. Yeah, it's not looking too good for them. Yeah, Haas is at 29 and RB is at 34.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
And I mean, if Singapore is going to be anything like Baku, then that plays more into Haas's hands. It looks like and I mean, do we have a repeat of Singapore going to be a shit show for RB like Baku was?
Probably. I mean, the car's not looking very good.
I mean, 5 points, that's nothing. That's one weekend. They could do that.
Easy.
So
easy. So I don't know. Hopefully
that'd be good.
Together.
Good for them for 6th. But I just don't think they're going to touch Aston. They're 5th at 82. I think they're, Aston's going to be the best of the rest. But yeah, from 6th to 10th, all to play for.
Yeah.
Well, 6th to 9th. Let's Kick is still at 0, 13 points behind.
They've got to
Alpine.
They've got to get 1 point. 1 point.
Yeah.
Before the end of the year. Like, come on.
But it could be, they go on a pointless drought for what, just say maybe 2026, or I'm sorry, 2025. But then come 2026, they're just, Yeah. And then everybody's like, where the hell did they come from?
It's possible.
Yeah. You guys still racing that one?
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah.
I still very curious who's going to get that seat. I think I listened to, they interviewed Valtteri last week, and he said, I think they're in talks, right? Like it's like, I don't know. I think they're just trying to get everything lined up, but he sounded relatively positive. So I don't know.
I mean,
I mean, if you're Audi, I mean, that's a pretty good driver pairing to be basically starting an F1 team with, to have guys that are experienced as them and they both have good pace. That'd be I think having a rookie, or it's probably not going to be very pretty for Kick next year, and so do you want a rookie driving in that? Like, they're not going to learn very well, right? It's, maybe just leave the guy in, leave Valtteri in there, and someone that's smart, has been around other teams, they can use his wisdom and experience.
Well, all these junior drivers getting called up, they might be saying, it could change their tune a little bit.
Sure.
Maybe they had 3 drivers, they're like, all right, these are our 3, but then all these rookies or all these junior drivers keep coming up and making a name for themselves, and it's like, well, now we have 5 or 6 drivers to choose from. Who could we do? Who could we call up?
It's very possible. There's definitely a lot of talent in F2 right now, so we'll see. But let's wrap up with our awards. So, who is your petrol head of the day?
For me, I'm giving it to Norris, just for his comeback drive.
I thought for
finishing ahead of Verstappen. His damage control, I think, was a whole lot better than Max's damage control. I think Max kind of realizes that he's, not a win is not in the cards anymore. So now it's all about damage control and staying close to Norris. But for Norris to come back, through was not an easy track to pass on, to finish ahead of Max and the fastest lap at the end. I mean, that's
typically it is a pretty easy track to pass on, but they were noting that it was really hard to follow. Yeah. So what happened is it was getting difficult to be able to stay close enough to be able to get, to have enough with the DRS to be able to get the pasta. I mean, that's a really long stretch, and still a lot of those passes were not until like late, so it's, it was like when it was with Leclerc and Piastri, if Leclerc was any more than 6.5 tenths, he wasn't going to be able to be close enough, and Piastri didn't even change his line. But if he was in about that 6 tenths range, he get close enough to Piastri had to defend. But it, it was a really good drive by Norris. Yeah, that was to be P4. Yeah, he started 15th. So, even if there was no wrecks, he was going to finish 6th, and he finished almost. But now, wait, did Max try and pit for the fastest lap? Yeah, he did. Okay, I was going to say, because Lando finished 40 seconds, but still, even 40 that means that he probably was ahead by like 15, 20 seconds. Yeah, because Max, he had the gap behind him, but as soon as he came out, it was double yellow, and that's right. That's what I thought. I kind of missed that in all the kebab. All right. Well, mine is Piastri. I mean, just he blew me away. Really, I back to back. Having moves like that to be able to, fair moves. I mean, again, I know I kind of maybe criticized him a bit for the one in Monza because, again, you're not really playing the team game there very much. But this one, he didn't have to worry about that. This was a free for all, and to be able to
gotta catch me,
and I mean, and he became Minister of Defense after he got that pass done.
Yeah,
and he was smart. He knew if you are gonna try, if you're gonna get me, it's gonna have to be a lunge on the inside. You're not coming around the outside. And so every time he did what Leclerc should have done and covered the inside. But
he flipped that switch, for the flexi wings, So.
Yeah, but he did a good job. Held on the tires. Made those tires last, and yeah, that was one of the best tries I'd seen him. That was a lot of laps to have to just hit your marks and not make mistakes.
But what's crazy is that he was the 9th fastest time overall at a 147, and that was on lap 47, and where Lando on lap 42 was a 145.2.
Wow.
So, yeah. The next, George is in second at 146.6. So
that kind of shows you Lando's pace.
Yeah. At the end, too, Yeah,
because, I mean, if say you could have had one of those, it could have been one of those races where if Lando had got the pole and managed to keep the place, he'd have left Piastri in the dust.
It's, Oscar, it was a 147.06, and Charles was a 147.067.
Yeah.
So those guys were right there with each other.
Yeah, good race. Well, my knucklehead of the day goes to Perez.
Same.
Yeah. I almost thought about giving it to Leclerc because I was like, God, dude, what are you doing leaving the corner open like that?
Mm-hmm.
But that was the one blemish on, a really solid day. He got the pole and just, Piastri took him by surprise, but Leclerc was just right there hammering him, not making any mistakes. And then to keep Perez behind too on that one where he had that tank slapper coming out of the corner. I was like, if Perez, he basically is like, Perez, you backing out or we reckon. So I thought that was really hard fought, strong P2.
I almost gave mine to Hulkenberg just for when he came up to the crash. There was a bunch of debris, and I don't know if you saw it. So the guy, the wreck was right here, but there was a big piece of wing or something in the middle, and Hulkenberg came up, and I think he was looking a little to his left and nailed it with his front with his front right.
Yeah, no, I didn't see that.
And you can see the car like this, and so I think he was like, "What the fuck," and he was looking around, but as he's looking around, that turns green, and then all of a sudden you see he's looking left, and he sees Lewis coming. He's like, "Oh shit!" But he lost 2 spots right there, so I was like, "Oh man, that's."
Yeah,
but
that's true.
When you go back and you look at it, we're gonna have to give Sergio the honors.
I think what are you doing? Just take the win, even if you end up in P4. You were faster than Max all weekend long. Take that win, take that W, and go off into the next one where you'll run strong again. But I don't know. I mean, I get it, desperation, and just I guess maybe a little sun blindness.
Call it what you want.
Yeah,
but it was a knucklehead move.
Knucklehead. I wonder if they were like cussing each other out in Spanish.
Did you see him? He walked over and he smacked him on the helmet. He was like,
I'd have got him out that car. I'd have got him out that car and been like, let's go, meet you right now.
But then you see him at the end, because I think they took the same medical car back to the pits, and when they were dropped off, they were walking side by side.
I saw them walking, and they were just not.
Yeah.
Freaking giving each other the cold shoulder.
Yeah.
Oh well. Well, who's your what's your best overtake award?
My best overtake. Oof.
I mean, I think it's got to go to Oscar.
I'm gonna go against the grain on this one and give it to Oliver, because you didn't give up. You saw the green light after you saw Lewis go through, and you saw your teammate still asleep at the switch. You stuck your elbows out and you got the last point.
I like that too. That was
because
good.
it's not over till it's over.
And he even said that he felt that when they asked him to do that, it was a little too soon. They didn't really give him a chance. It was like as soon as Nico caught up to him, they were like, "Get the hell out of the way." And so, but he got the last laugh.
Yeah.
So, but I think I know it's kind of like obvious to give it to Piastri, but that was that was a lunge, man, and to make it stick was awesome. So, well, we'll finish up. So our prediction reviews. Qualifying, I had Leclerc, Norris, Hamilton, so I got the pole sitter, 2 points from that. You had Piastri, Leclerc, Norris, completely wrong. And then race, I had Norris, Leclerc, Hamilton, so I got Leclerc right. But because of the wreck, mine was unaffected by the wreck. But because of you said Piastri, Norris, Russell, so you got 2.
Mm-hmm. I was expecting Ferrari to fall off at the end. That's what I said. That's how Russell got up there. But
yeah, you were wrong on that one.
Well, one Ferrari did fall off.
Yeah, it's for some reason it's like it's always the racing is always great and fun to watch until a Red Bull sticks its nose in there somewhere and chaos happens. I don't know. Maybe there's something to that. But yeah, it was that was. And so
Red Bull or Sergio's bill with Red Bull now is just it keeps going up.
Yeah. Which I mean, they were, they just were making excuses, basically being, I don't know what Sainz was doing. Erratic. Christian Horner was like he had erratic movement. It's like,
let's see if any lasting damage. To the transmission, engine, anything, that could potentially hurt Perez, next race or, towards the end of the season, the last few races.
Yeah.
So,
well, my bold predict. Well, so I'm going to make an argument, and I know we don't have an audience yet that we could like go to the polls with. Otherwise, I would. Because I think I deserve 1 point.
Explain.
Because I had your bold prediction I originally had. And I was nice enough to let you have it instead of going, no, we both have to pick a new one.
That's that Norris mentality being too nice, all right?
I'm not, you got 3 points out of it. I think I deserve 1.
What about a half a point?
We ain't doing a half points here. I'm going to say I have 7 now. And it'll be 7-9 because my bold prediction didn't come true.
But mark it with an asterisk, being
like,
open to debate.
Nice guy, being like, I could have just been that's my prediction, bitch. Change it.
If we're tied at the end, that asterisk is the review because then we start the poll.
Well, actually,
then they're going to see that.
Actually, you know what?
You don't get shit.
No, it's actually 9-9 because the 2 points from my very first prediction.
That was a practice round.
Yeah, nah, son. I think it's mine. I think we're tied 9-9. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll go back to 9-6. It's cool.
Yeah. No, 9-7. We'll say 9-7. But no, that was pretty. I did. I was just like. I picked it up just after just a little bit after the chaos happened. I was just like, I was like, oh, Russell got on the podium. damn it, Russell got on the podium. I was like fucking pissed.
You know
that bitch.
Where that guy, it's a superhero. I can't think of his name right now, but he walks out and everybody's cheering for him, and he's looking around. He's like,
"Oh,
all right."
It was the dude from that's from The Boys or something. I think
something.
Yeah, he's like.
That is Russell this season. Yeah. He just kind of shows up on the podium and he's like, all right, here we go.
Yeah. It's like the meme of the 3 dragon heads where 2 are serious and then one's real goofy.
Yeah.
That's the podium. But hey, you got to be there to take advantage of it, so. And he was, and he talked after the race. He's like, we have to be realistic and be like, yeah, we didn't deserve a podium.
They were at least 5th fastest, yeah.
Third car. Yeah, the McLarens and Ferraris were faster, but they were faster than the Red Bulls because he got Max back.
Yeah,
he took Max, so he was. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you would say 3.5 because Perez, I think, was still probably faster than Max.
Maybe a hair.
Yeah. So, and Lewis, I mean, you don't know. I still kind of lean that I think Lewis probably would have had better. Lewis seemed to have the better race pace again versus Russell, but I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know. I think Lewis was running. I think Lewis was running a crazy low downforce setup because he was. I mean, he would. Like he would lose like 0.8 through sector 1 and sector 2, and then make up like 0.6 in sector 3. And I think he had the fastest sector 3 at the end of the day. I think he must have just been running a super low downforce setup. And
yeah, I think they asked Toto at the end. They were like, well, "Why are you guys running 2 crazy extreme setups?" And I think it's all just experimentation.
Trying to come up to the field too. He wanted that straight line speed. It hampered him because it made it very difficult to, he was affected by trying to follow, even more. So, well, anyways, that wraps things up. That's all I got. Any final thoughts?
The Flexi Wing scandal is not as big of a deal as everybody's making it out to be.
I mean, you're going to come out with new stuff, and then if the FIA looks at it and says that's not within the rules, they take it away. I mean, you've seen it. They're
innovating.
I mean, that's what you want to see. Yeah.
But you know what's going to happen? It's when Ferrari and Red Bull come out with their version of it. New Wing 2.0, whatever, Flexi Wing.
Yeah.
That's when FIA is going to say, no more of that. Banned.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm okay with it. Well, it's cool. I like to see the.
They're all doing load tests on. They have to pass the FIA.
What's what I'm saying? Test. Yeah, it's not.
So it could be like 1 or 2 pounds below, and they're probably like.
No, I don't think so. I don't. I think that they are super anal about that stuff. I mean, because if that was the case too, they probably would have been like, all right, Georgie boy, 1.5 kilos. Nah, we'll look the other way. They were like, hell nah, fuck your ass.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully, I think our plan is to get another episode out later this week to preview Singapore. Yeah. So we'll give a little preview for that. Our predictions.
Night race.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll be pretty good. Last year's was interesting. Mm-hmm. Oh, Georgie boy. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's it for us. If you're watching on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, leave us a review, 5 stars, hopefully. And we'll see you guys later this week.
For shits and giggles, we're going to do a poll. I'm right. 9-7.
He's going down. Don't worry. Bye, everybody.
Bye.